As a provision, we were at a point where we were feeling liberated by the Rochford Review and looking for a different type of assessment that would meet the needs of all of our learners. We started our journey asking parents what did they want, and they had two key aims. Their first aim was that they wanted progress in all 4 areas of SEND value, not just in cognition and learning. And secondly, they wanted to see what their child could do now that they couldn't do previously. They didn't mind if that was qualitative or quantitative. When we started our work, we realised that Evidence for Learning was able to give us just that. We were able to share evidence directly with parents and show them what their child could do now, and show it in all 4 areas of SEND as well. So at our school, we've created a really bespoke model to assessment, and it's really personalised around the needs of each individual learner. What Evidence for Learning has allowed us to do is to tailor-make that framework within the app to make it do exactly what we need it to do. We've been able to create our own bespoke frameworks for each pupil based on their EHCP, which has proven hugely successful for children of all ranges of abilities. Ensure we're teaching and assessing what matters for optimal life outcomes for each and every child. This is one of the children's personal learning goal tools, showing their targets in all 4 areas of special educational need. As you can see, it shows how many pieces of evidence for each of the children's outcomes, and then an overall rating of where they are now. When you click into it, you can see our rating scale, which is well understood by parents and professionals, and joint judgments are made for each target for each child. You can also click on historical to see the journey that the children have made.
Evidence for Learning has been great for us. This looks at the whole child. The staff have completely embraced this. They tell me they know the children better than they've ever known them before. It's easy to get your baseline. It's easy to see at a glance where those children have come from and what they need to do next. It is wonderful for showcasing great professional practice.
The evidence is clearly annotated by either teaching assistant or myself as teachers, and then next steps are recorded of what we need to do. As you can see, the same piece of evidence can be attached to multiple frameworks, whether these are national frameworks such as the P scales or the pre-key stage standards, as well as children's personalised targets, maybe through their EHCPs. We then use tagging of evidence for ease of locating it and showing progress. This can be via subject, their level of engagement, which can tell a lot rather than just a short snapshot in time of the videos, and also linking it to different professionals such as the visual impairment advisory teacher and the occupational therapist.
There's multiple different things. Not only does it help empower the staff to feel they know exactly what they're doing, it helps with feedback to different agencies and the teacher. It helps show the progress easily.
We're loving the new engagement indicators module within Evidence for Learning. It's so quick and simple to use and makes assessing the 7 areas of cognition and learning, as recommended by the Rochford Review, so much easier and more manageable than the paper-based approach that we used previously. This is allowing us to use it on a more widespread basis across the provision. My support staff have picked it up really quickly, and having it incorporated into the app means that we've got immediate access to the assessment, and it's directly linked to the video evidence. We can then play back the evidence as a team to moderate and agree the final judgments and interventions to move the learning forward, as the evidence is side by side with the engagement data. You can also create reports at the touch of a button, and then link this engagement data back to children's personalised outcomes. Before using Evidence for Learning, we were using commercial tick box packages and national frameworks such as the P scales. However, we were finding that those weren't working for all of our learners due to them not learning in the hierarchical nature of a lot of these frameworks.
Charlie, that is fantastic.
Can I draw now?
Oh, what are you going to draw?
For example, one of our learners, Charlie, his progress has plateaued in writing, so we looked at using an engagement approach and building on his strengths and what he enjoyed to support this development. We work with other agencies, for example the occupational therapist, to work on isolating his index finger, to work on his hand dominance, as well as the visual impairment advisory teachers and ICT advisory teacher to work on left to right tracking and to identify the appropriate technology for Charlie to use. Through using this personalised approach, we've seen some massive progress for Charlie, and we've been able to show the small steps of progress through using the app.
The other thing I think it's particularly useful for is Pupil Premium children, because we can see the gaps. Parents can see the gaps, they know what they need to work on when they're at home.
As a school, we're able to share selected evidence, and also it's fantastic for modelling. Instead of directing families to generic links online, we're able to actually model what we need parents to do to support their children using strategies that are specific to their child. Parents are also able to upload evidence of their children working on their targets at home. So this is some evidence from homework that a parent has inputted, and you can also attach that to the frameworks as part of the evidence. What we found it particularly useful for is in subjects like measure, where you can show them applying skills such as measuring cooking in practical contexts and generalising it to everyday life. You can also feed back to the parents on the approach, things to try next, and also it was great here to see that this learner had tried some new learning at home and to have that dialogue with home about their learning. We also have regular progress meetings with parents and talk about where they are now and where they need to go next. Parents are now key partners in supporting moving their child from new to engaging with their targets under our new system. Families are definitely the experts in what engages their child. We've got so much to learn from them.
Charlie was quite frustrated when he first started school because he struggled a lot with reading and writing and mark making. I just think it felt like he couldn't do the things he was meant to do. In that day, I could see what he's done at school. When he comes home, I can carry on doing the same work with him throughout the day. And I just think it's just made him a lot happier. He enjoys coming to school now and he enjoys showing off. If I show him the videos that he's done, he's super happy. He'll show me again, ask me to record him so he can show his teachers. So I think it's a massive, massive change for Charlie.
Another benefit that we hadn't anticipated was working with new parents. Being able to share evidence via the app and show our ways of working, it really helps to build that trust and communication with parents as they get to know their child's new setting. As well as children working on the pre-key stage standards, we've also got children working on the national curriculum. What we found evidence for learning particularly useful for is showing that mastery and depth of learning. As you input the evidence and tag it, it automatically goes into an assessment book. So this is for Year 1 National Curriculum in Maths. When you go into the evidence, you can see, you can scroll down and there's a whole range of evidence from assessment papers, from working books to hands-on problem solving. And by watching the videos back and looking at the evidence, you can really see the depth of learning and whether they truly mastered it, talking about their problem solving skills.
It's been very, very helpful having this technology this year because Red Oaks have introduced or trying to work towards a mastery approach for maths. It's very easy for some children to learn an approach or a strategy with fractions, for example, without really understanding what is going on. The technology has been brilliant for capturing those conversations that the children can have and explaining what they've been doing, explaining their thinking, what their pictures mean. It's fantastic evidence of children's understanding. In maths moderations, where we looked particularly at fractions, the evidence was there that the children had really grasped what was being taught them.
We review evidence with families, with our team and with multi-agencies to ensure that children have really mastered and generalised the targets that they're working on. So we're looking at, can they do it independently? Are they doing that fluently? Can they maintain it over time? And also generalise that target to ensure that they've really mastered it as a skill for life. In this day and age of accountability, we would never have been brave enough to have a totally assessment without level system without using evidence for learning, where we can show that journey for all the learners. With Ofsted, they're really interested in progress over time, not just a snapshot of children's progress. And using the app, we're able to show that journey and each of the small steps in between that each of our learners has made.
Quite often I have teachers that come to me and say something amazing's happened today, but that moment has gone. With evidence for learning, that can be captured.
As part of our assess, plan, do, review cycle, the great thing about evidence for learning is its portability, and wherever we are without having access to hard copy assessment files, we're able to access the evidence on the app to inform our planning and our marking.